We're live. What's up, Weekend Warriors? Welcome back to another weekend stream on the Weekend Dojo. And as always, it is El Chizo hosting tonight just because we've had some technical difficulties. And as always, I am joined by.
Ace Red, what up?
So let's get straight into tonight's topic. We are doing a Stan Lee tribute video.
Mm-hmm.
And before we started, I figured that you, Kenny, would want to comment a little bit on the life and times of Stan Lee himself.
Of course. So, where do I start? Aside from him working at Marvel back in the or starting his job at Marvel back in like late 50s, early 60s, he worked with several contributors like Jack Kirby to name one. In creating other characters from Marvel, such as Spider-Man, Black Panther, Fantastic Four. The list goes on. He was a man who really believed in heroism and thought that, actually I can't really say thought because I'm pretty sure what he thought came real was that his stories would inspire people to live up to the expectations of those heroes.
Now, this is all, as we all know, Stan Lee died very recently, and the world is just shaken by it. I mean, not just because he didn't just influence popular culture here in America. And we've said this on the channel many times before. He's influenced pop culture all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
Can
I share a fun fact?
Yeah, go ahead.
Did you know that Stan Lee was actually the first person to attempt to bring Super Sentai over to the West as Power Rangers?
Yes, I did know this. See, I'm sure not to steal your spotlight, but I've read this situation a million times, and it's still, mm, I'm just, I'm still kind of burnt up about it.
Mm-hmm. You think Super Power Rangers would have been a whole lot better if Lee adapted it rather than Saban?
I think if Lee had adapted it, they wouldn't even be called the Power Rangers. It would be just an American version of the Super Sentai.
Right, and it would have the same name and possibly would have been in canon with the Marvel Cinematic Universe eventually.
He might have called it something like the Hyper Squadron or something, but essentially, yes, it would have been the same concept, and it would have, I think, made a great addition to the greater Marvel bracket.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually writing a fanfic right now of what if that happened.
That'd be awesome. Which, by the way, which reminds me, there is a DC series that Stan Lee took part of that I recommend anyone who loved Stan Lee and DC Comics to go check out. It's the What If Stan Lee Made Created series, where he takes uh, some popular DC characters and they give them to Stan Lee and they say, "Do this your way."
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that, and I think that's what would have happened if he'd actually pulled the trigger on that deal.
Right. Well, now I want to focus on this deal just for a bit because it's a really fascinating thing that very, very, very few people know about.
Absolutely.
What exactly prevented him from bringing it over to the West? And how Saban was able to do what he couldn't?
I don't think it was anything to do with him being unable to do it. I think primarily it was the result of him just not finding a way that he wanted to do it. Because, you see, Toei actually called him over with help on the Dynaman series, and then he was going to get the rights to Dynaman and Sun Vulcan. But ultimately, it would have been an adaptation just like Power Rangers ended up being with that Stan Lee flair on it.
Yeah.
Now, I think what just prevented him was that he was probably scratching his head trying to figure out how he can incorporate it, and probably was waiting on Toei to put Captain America in Battle Fever J so that he could start with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because
and then we
that was
got
the
Miss
plan.
America.
Then we got Miss America, yes. And I think that's ultimately what prevented him creatively.
Okay. Because they
Um,
decided to make the female Pink Ranger of the team Miss America.
yeah, and because I think he might have been banking on that. Oh, Christian Torres says happy holidays. Happy holidays, Christian.
Happy holidays.
Um,
Welcome. We were talking about Stan Lee tonight.
so
Apparently we're talking about a little known fact that very few Stan Lee fans know about.
yes, which is his deal with Toei to bring Super Sentai over to the States instead of Saban. Now, so yeah, I think it was more of a creative thing
Okay.
than any kind of legal issue.
Yeah. One of the theories I thought was just at the time when he tried to do it, TV networks constantly kept saying this looks like a kid's show, but the content in it contradicts that, so we're saying no to it. Because I remember that's the constant things I kept hearing when they were trying to bring over it before they finally won the gold mine with Zeo Ranger, was the fact that Super Sentai looked like a kid's show, but it was too violent to be considered one in the West.
That could have had a major role in it. I can't say for certain.
And if I'm correct, Stan Lee didn't want to censor any of it. He wanted to use the
Yeah,
whole
Stan
bunch.
Lee was big against censorship, which, by the way, is rock and roll 101.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the big thing, was the censorship thing, honestly, because
You're starting to,
that's how Saban was able to bring it over, was censorship.
yeah, unfortunately. I just
Mm-hmm.
noticed something. You're starting to do the thing most rockers do. This
Mm-hmm.
becomes your default pointing symbol.
Yeah.
In here,
Well, it all
over
started with
there.
Spider-Man. So
It's
Spider-Man
oh
was the first
yes.
rocker.
That's there's a fun story actually behind this symbol, but that'll be a story for another day.
Okay.
Uh,
Actually, when we get into Spider-Man, you can bring it up because he does that.
yes, yes. Let's see. So let's talk about Fantastic Four for a minute. Stan Lee actually got this idea from the Justice Society of America comics that DC was making at the time. However, whereas Justice Society was DC's attempt to save kids money while they can still see all their favorite superheroes, Stan Lee decided to create his own original group of heroes that didn't have any ties outside of this team. And this was actually the first Marvel superhero team.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and ultimately, it actually saved Marvel Comics. So, yes, Marvel and DC kind of both have sticks up their asses right now about wanting to work together. But if they had not worked together in the past, comic books would not have survived. And I think Stan Lee is part of the reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
He was
Indeed.
a little racist. Well, just a little bit. But he was 95, so
Was he?
he wasn't like outright hateful of other
Yeah,
races,
because
but he
I've
was
seen a
very,
lot of his words or a lot of his notes and stuff. If anything, he was against hate of any sort.
yeah, he's not hateful in a sense,
Right.
but rather he is very culturally confused at times.
Yeah. I think
He
he's just
was.
tied to the pat. Like he's just
Yes, like
yes
I
that.
said, he's 95.
Mm-hmm.
um,
So things he will say or write English things will come off in his mind as good, but to modern society may not.
and to his credit, he made attempts to improve himself and made very great strides in doing so.
Mm-hmm. Black Panther.
Black Panther. Although it's hard to tell if that was the original, if he just wanted to create black representation in comics, or if that's what he convinced himself over the years.
Okay.
Either way, his opinion of the creation of Black Panther at the time of his death was that it was necessary for representation, and that's the important thing.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Um,
here's how I see it. His opinions and his character traits have evolved so much since the '60s. Honestly, if you read his soapboxes, his words get like just better and better as far as idealism go as each one
Absolutely.
comes out.
Now, there was fun fact: Black Panther, for a period of time, was actually called the Black Leopard.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that bit.
It was during the time when the Black Panther group was very prevalent in society. It was a hot button topic at the time, and I think it was Marvel trying to, say, okay, this is getting political,
Hmm.
which is kind of they're kind of kneecapping themselves there because the whole idea of Black Panther as a representation for Black people in comics was a political statement anyway. And comics
Okay.
have always been used as a medium for getting political ideals out there.
Right. Now, what came first, the Black Panther or the Black Panthers?
The Black Panther, I believe, came first. I
Okay, and
don't think
started using that.
anyone took inspiration from the other.
Okay, so then they changed his name for a bit because of to avoid confusion.
Yes, to avoid confusion, and I think it was to avoid showing any kind of political favoritism.
Right.
We're not going to comment on that. I think that was more Marvel's decision than Stan's.
Right. Now, what was the canon explanation for the change and then the return to that name?
Retcon.
Retcon?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
Twice. They went back and changed his origin.
Oh, okay. So more like a reboot and then going back.
Yeah, they retroactively altered the continuity. Retcon.
Okay. Yeah, I get it.
We got another viewer here. Jacqueline Castanon says, "Happy holidays." Hey, Jacqueline, happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays.
We're
talking about Stan Lee.
Let's see, what else can we bring up that hasn't already been brought up about Stan?
Let's just go through the different heroes that he's had involvement in.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll start.
Fantastic Four and Black Panther.
I guess we go into Spider-Man.
Yes.
Now,
and then you can explain that rocker symbol.
Yeah, now a lot of people get irritated when there's an adult Spider-Man in movies or something, but here's the thing. In the actual comics and the original cartoon, Spider-Man was only in high school for a short period of time at the beginning of the series. Mm-hmm. And then he immediately went into the freelance photography thing.
Yes. Most fans of Spider-Man forget that because they're so used to the ultimate continuity where he was in Spider-Man for most of his teenager life before becoming an adult, and they forget that the original continuity, he becomes Spider-Man at an adult age.
Yes, and the ultimate Spider-Man continuity is good.
It is, but
it is not the original.
It is not the original, and when people try to say Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is the most inaccurate, wrongful Spider-Man, I direct you to the 60s comics and the 1990s animated series.
Now, moving on from... Now, Spider-Man, since we said we were going to get into this anyway, this, believe it or not, is not devil horns. This is just sort of a lazy way of doing this, which, as it was explained to me, is sign language. I do not speak sign language, so I may be totally wrong. If there are people in the audience who speak sign language or are deaf and can read lips, which, by the way, we really need to start doing closed captions on these things or something in case we get any deaf viewers.
Yeah. How do we do that? Does the closed caption read what we're saying and then convert it?
I think so. I think it's like a speech to text. Anyway. And so this is often associated as being the devil horns. What this actually is, as I understand it, is sign language for "I love you," which, as it was explained to me back in the day, some musician was playing, and his mother, who was deaf, was out in the audience, and so every show he would end with "I love you" to his mom.
Mm-hmm.
People often say this is the sign of the devil, or this is the sign of... It's a hand sign.
Yeah.
It only has meaning if you give it that. So the reason Spider-Man is often known for using this is just because, like, unlike the Tobey Maguire series, Spider-Man did not actually have organs in his body that shot webs. He needed to use web fluid shooters, which were essentially pressurized squirt guns that fired a liquid which, upon contact with oxygen, would turn into sort of a stretchy polymer.
Yep. and then the it was attached right here. Let me use this as an example. And then there was a little like wire with a circle button thing attached. It went all the way down to here. Then he would push his fingers against it, and then it would shoot out. And he would pull down, and it would shoot out.
As I understand it, that was actually just like a little pressure pump, an air pump.
Yeah.
Or a fluid pump.
Originally, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was going to have that. They even filmed footage of him using the web shooter in early test footage that was used in the teaser trailer for Comic-Con in 2001. But for some reason, they did a last-minute change and got rid of that.
Yes. Now, take it with a grain of salt. There have been Spider-Man who didn't need to use web shooters. Ultimately, because what they were talking about were very small things, like the hairs on his fingertips getting harder and firmer so that he could fit them into spaces in between bricks and crawl up walls, or being able to sense something. Those are small, minute changes that you can have overnight, because hair follicles, your body does make new ones.
Yeah.
However, the whole web fluid thing, that's a whole new organ. And to me, like, I know comic book logic, but to me, that requires some kind of a surgical transplant.
Warner wasn't a fan of the organic web shooters.
I don't have anything against them, honestly. Me being a guy who loves to work with machines, I like the idea of a mechanical solution.
Yeah, fair enough.
But anyway, so yeah, Spider-Man, probably the most influential creation that Stan Lee ever had anything to do with.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more.
And believe it or not, that contract we mentioned earlier between Toei and Stan Lee, Spider-Man did actually get carried over to Japan. And if you've read the Spider-Verse comics, then you know that he came back to the West in the Spider-Verse series.
Mm-hmm.
The emissary from hell, Spider-Man. That's what they called him. Let's see, what else is there to mention?
Incredible Hulk.
I think the Hulk, yes, of course, the Hulk. Possibly, I would say the second most popular Marvel superhero. Mm-hmm. Like, ask any kid what their favorite superheroes are, and if you're asking a kid, it's probably going to be Marvel. That's nothing against or for Marvel. That's just me stating the obvious. Marvel stories tend to appeal to kids because they're funnier and more colorful. They're probably going to list them off as Spider-Man, the Hulk, Wolverine, and that's probably going to be their top 3 superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. What else can we say about the man? Well, for a long period of time, since they started building up the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he has had something to do with the movies.
I know where you're going with this.
And he has had something to do with every single Cinematic Universe movie that ever came out. He didn't have much to do with the series, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mm-hmm. He never really showed in because it wasn't a movie.
He had one cameo in there.
Oh, he did?
Yep.
Oh.
It was when Agent what's his name? Coulson and the girl, the scientist girl on his team were on the train.
Yeah.
And they were doing a fake act, or she was crying and such, and he comes in and says, "I'm terribly sorry." He looks at the Phil Coulson like he's her husband. He says, you should take of this and do better. And then walks off.
Okay, that's a little mean. But ultimately, it's kind of funny. So I guess he did have something to do with the TV series. And
he's part of that. Up to date.
Okay.
Series.
It's going to be kind of... Because...
He even had a cameo in Teen Titans Go, the movie.
Hello, new. Okay, Mike's Food Reviews is saying, "Hello, new here. What was Stanley's first cameo?"
Okay. Oh, I know that one. It was in the Incredible Hulk TV series that had Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby in it. It was the Trial of the Incredible Hulk special, and he was playing the jury.
Okay. Um, let's see. What else is there to talk about? So now Stanley, I guess, was not afraid to be seen as a man who likes alcohol. I I wish I knew what his favorite drink was, honestly.
I could look that up, honestly, probably.
Unfortunately, most of the liquor stores around here are closed tonight, so I'm stuck with
1800. Hey, good choice though.
1800 is always a good choice, man.
Did you say that's the drink you would want
Oh,
to rock out
yeah.
to have at an empty seat for you?
This is my favorite liquor, actually. Because I've tried whiskeys, I've tried bourbons.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the drink you said that if I'm at some place, on like your birthday, whatever, to have that laid out on an empty seat?
Oh yeah, if there ever comes a day when I'm no longer in this world. See, it's kind of the rock and roller's fantasy here, just not to diverge too much from the topic, but see, I would like someday to be known well enough for my music that some rockers out there set aside an empty seat with a with one double shot of 1800 on a bar stool. Uh, just so I have one last drink in the mortal realm before I go to Valhalla.
Mm-hmm. I'll remember that. I'll remember that.
I know you will. Matter of fact, just because I know Stanley wasn't afraid to be seen as a drinking man, and because I know he'd appreciate this, I'm going to have a little toast to him. That's a double shot glass, so we'll
I'm
just
get water real quick because I don't have any alcohol. You mind?
Oh, absolutely. A drink's a drink. I'm just drinking alcohol because that's an interesting phenomenon, isn't it? Alcohol, when drunk, actually causes certain pain reactions in the throat. It's that warmth that you feel when you drink it. And we often, one more question, when did Stan Lee get his first break? Oh, that's ages ago. We're talking about comic book history. Well, we'll tackle that one when Ace Red gets back. Kenny, I'm just going to call him Kenny. And we drink alcohol to remember others and when we're sad, probably because honestly, it's a form of self-harm in a way, if it's not tempered properly. And that's especially when we're on the topic of remembering someone who's passed on. If you're feeling like you need to, there's a fine line between remembering someone with a drink and trying to forget someone with a drink. Just remember that. Stanley, salud.
Stanley. Excelsior.
Excelsior.
Reminds you of that scene. Remember that scene? My favorite cameo.
Excelsior.
My favorite cameo is when it's Age of Ultron, and Thor is talking about how he has aged 1,000-year-old ale, and how it's not meant for the mortal men to drink. And Stanley says, "So wasn't Malibu Beach." But you don't hear me complain.
So like it was not meant for mortal men, and neither was Omaha Beach.
Omaha Beach.
Oh, so we had one more question from Mike's Food Review. When did Stan Lee get his big break?
I think you'll know that one.
Now that's some comic book history. As I understand it, he got his break way back in I think it was after the dawn of DC Comics.
Okay.
And it was because he just don't. And I could be wrong about this, but I believe he started off with superheroes, which meant that he was jumping on just as superheroes started to make sort of a buzz. and he took it in his own direction with his colorful flair and the idea of making comics more than just a series of one panel to the next with very bland statements of what's going on. He decided he was gonna. I can't remember the year.
I don't know either. Oh, can you see the Spider-Man on my chair?
Yeah, I saw it. Man, you know what? This is actually the one that escapes me. You'd think I'd know this one. Well, I'm ashamed of myself. But yes, I think as a creator, as an artist, Stan Lee has influenced many of us to the point where a lot of writing today actually mimics some of the tropes and techniques that he introduced. Especially the quippiness. Mid-fight banter was one of his calling cards.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
And when I say mid-fight banter, I don't mean just cheesy one-liners. That was kind of DC's thing. I read somewhere that he got his first break on Captain America, and that actually, yes, that does add up, because Captain America was like the comic book shipped out to the camps and soldiers in American soldiers in World War II.
What did he read? That what?
He read somewhere that his first break was on the original Captain America comic.
Did Stan Lee help with the first Captain America?
Yeah, I think Captain America is one of his.
Really? Because
think about it. It was his name on the contract.
1922. He was born in 1922, so World War II started in 1941, at least for us. And then, let's see, 22. If he got his big breaker in his early 20s, that would have worked.
I think that's when he did it, too, because
okay.
As I remember it, Stan Lee was just some kid who knew how to use a pencil.
Okay. Well, Steve Rogers was just some kid who was in the war who knew how to use a pencil also. I mean, if you remember.
Absolutely.
I wonder if if that was a thing Lee incorporated into Steve Rogers' character that he could draw.
Probably. I mean, the small-time kid getting his lucky break. Now, here's the big thing, okay? And this is something a lot of comic book artists have done, and that a lot of people don't really acknowledge, although they know it, is that comic book artists draw who they want to be. Like, go back to DC again, Bob Kane was born Bob Khan. He was a little Jewish kid who was very poor. And, you know, he was a comic strip artist until Detective Comics contacted him. And so when he created the Batman, he wanted to create an identity that he could envelop. So he created the Bruce Wayne identity, the rich kid with everything going for him. And that's when he started going for the Bob Kane name and starting dressing up in suits with the little Batman logo on the lapel on the pocket.
Right.
And so if we're talking very early on, then yes, Captain America does kind of reflect, in a way, Stan Lee's big break. So I keep fucking with my little soul patch there, and he's trimmed. So that covers. So that's probably the best explanation for how the Captain America. Okay, Mike just did us a big favor here. He looked it up. He got it. He got his big break in 1939, co-creating Captain America.
Thank you. All right, cool. So we were kind of like.
Awesome. Okay, well, we wouldn't have figured it out if he hadn't helped us. So thank you again, Mike.
Thank you.
Let's see, what else can we talk about? Well, how about we talk about the way he may not have actually brought characters over from the Toei series, but has had characters influenced by them, like the Beetle.
Mm-hmm. Which
Now,
one's
if you look,
the Beetle?
not the Blue Beetle, just the Beetle.
Okay, Beetle. I have to see a
Marvel,
picture.
Marvel, the Beetle, very closely resembled a Kamen Rider.
I know that Ant-Man in the Marvel. Actually, funny thing, Kamen Rider Marvel. Ant-Man in the Marvel's cinematic universe, he looks very much like Kamen Rider Ichigo in like a tech suit.
Well, that's another one of those examples I mentioned where it seems like Toei still inspired some character designs.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got a new subscriber, Mike's Food Review. Thanks for coming on board, dude.
Thank you, brother.
So, we can, in fact, at least speculate or hypothesize that Toei still influenced Stan Lee's work.
Mm-hmm.
And we can also hypothesize that it was probably more creative influences holding him back than legal ones.
Right.
Man, I don't know. It seems like there's everything and nothing to say about the man.
Spider-Man, at least suit design wise, very much could have influenced Sentai and writers in general, because if you think about his suit, it's very much technically could be considered the first Power Ranger. If you really look at Spider-Man's suit, because he predates all of the Toei superheroes. Because
to be fair, the skin tight spandex look was not new. DC had been doing it long before.
But just the way Spider-Man's is set out, like you see the boots tied against the spandex look, even though that's a part of the spandex. You see the gloves here up to here, and it's very identical. And even if you count this, or it goes around him as a belt, it's very identical to your average Ranger suit.
There could have been some influential elements for sure.
That, and you remember, Spider-Man became a hit in Japan before
an anime did, but not until they had written their own story for him.
No, actually, the reason why they did a Japanese Spider-Man, I read about this earlier, was because they had aired the live-action CBS show in Japan, and they wanted their own version, so they made a deal with Stan Lee.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, I like to think the comics had to have had some influence also, because why would the show just air in Japan without the comics already being known over there?
Yeah, and here's the thing is that Marvel Comics was always more popular in Japan than DC.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain they're aware of DC Comics over there, but ultimately they do like Marvel better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Mike's is saying that he created Captain America when he was 17. Okay, mad respect to the dude.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mike. We'll hope to have you on here quite a bit, because you can help us with talking also.
See, that's what I love about doing these streams, is we get help every once in a while. Once in a blue fucking moon, we get friggin' audience members that not only participate, but assist in the show.
Mm-hmm. So thank you, Mike.
Alrighty. So let's see, what else do we talk about?
You want to go into what we have in plans as far as projects go?
Yeah, we got about a half hour left, so I guess we'll go as far as projects go. I have been kind of swamped with non-YouTube related stuff, and I apologize for that.
Yeah.
Right now, my band is actually in the middle of creating an EP.
Okay.
An LP. And we are fitting about 6 songs on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of going slow because we don't actually have access to an official studio. We are working with a home studio. Not to mention we have conflicting schedules. Now, I want to mention this very clearly. I want to state this very clearly. You do not have to quit your day job to make money as a musician. Online sales are a thing. Spotify is a thing. You can, in fact, start a music career in your downtime. Now, some people might say that's not the best way to go about it. Whatever. And like I said, you don't just start digitally. Don't just start by putting stuff out on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
For example, you know, my bandmate actually on with one of his other bands just played the Brat Rock Festival a couple weeks ago.
That's cool.
And so the key is doing local shows
Mm-hmm.
to build a local following, to get people to like your sound, because that's what record labels want. They want to know that you can connect with people.
Mm-hmm. Actually, what you just said there reminds me of a line from Bohemian Rhapsody that connects to another movie that the actor who said this line is in. You remember the scene where the record label guy is saying, Bohemian Rhapsody, I want a song that teenagers will rock their heads to, and Bohemian Rhapsody is not that song. Meanwhile, in Wayne's World.
Yeah. So, fun fact about Bohemian Rhapsody, it was actually shot down because of its length. But see, and yes, it was called mediocre or surprisingly at par or something like that. You're gonna have duds like that, or at least they're gonna seem like duds. And it turns out that later on down the line, they're gonna be hits. Just because it is not a commercial success right out of the gate does not mean that people don't like it.
Right.
Oh, Mike's Food Review did his own tribute stream to Stan Lee. Well, that's awesome, dude.
I did too. I did too, actually. Earlier, a little bit ago, I posted a see, on my YouTube channel, I make fan edits where I'll make like fan-made movie trailers, music videos, sometimes reviews and such. I pretty much do whatever I want. It just happens to mostly be edits. But I made a video edit tribute to Stan Lee using the Bohemian Rhapsody trailer mix music.
I saw that, and I really liked it.
Thank you. So yeah, if you want to check that out, it's under Ace Red, Stan Lee tribute Bohemian Rhapsody, and my YouTube channel logo is a white with a red symbol that says Ace Red in it.
So I guess if we're talking creative projects, like I said, me and my bandmate, Gotchi Tater Tots on YouTube, are working on our band's first LP, EP. And what we are going to be doing is it's nerd rock, and I'm not going to say too much about the songs that are going to be on it, but that is what we're working on. It's taken a long time.
I saw lyrics to one of his songs, and it's really good. I like it. It had me both laughing and crying and relating to it. Do you remember that?
Ah, man, you're gonna have to tell me the title, which one it was.
I don't remember the title. I just remembered it was one. You showed me only one, and I really felt it.
Oh yeah, that one is probably not gonna go on this album.
Okay.
That's probably gonna go on a later album. I'm quite proud of that one. But to give you an idea of what is going to be on this album, we are going to have some nice, heavy, jungly vibes with lots of bass. We're going to have big orchestral things. It's all done digitally, but you work with what you got. And so this big orchestral thing for one, we're going to do a blues number for one of them because I love the blues.
I announce what my projects are. In fact, I actually got some new things, including what you got me, to go with it and to incorporate some new ideas.
Awesome. Go ahead.
All right. So with my YouTube projects, I'm trying to start a review series that's has a formula that's formulated under and through a story, kind of like Nostalgia Critic, what Apollo Z Hack used to be, if you remember him. Evil Incorporated, Dr. Terawatt, stuff like that. Well, what I want to do is sort of just haven't really decided what I'm staying in. I may just go with everything to expand my horizon, whether it be DVDs, CDs, toys, whatever.
Just find that nerdy stuff that vibes with you, man.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think I have a nerdy mix of everything, so I can take that to my advantage and have it be a wider horizon rather than just toys and such. And my character is going to be kind of like a Kingsman spy, and he makes his own tech and works for HQ and such. And there's going to be an evil organization that's trying to destroy the stuff that I'm reviewing, and I'm trying to preserve that, save it, whatnot. And yeah, that's as far as I've gotten. As far as stuff goes, my character will be sort of like a transforming hero, kind of like a Power Ranger or such. In fact, El Chizo here sent me this today. This is the belt that will be for my hero. And it works kind of like a Kamen Rider or transforming Power Ranger belt, if you're not familiar with what Kamen Rider is. But it has this little light on it, and I will be modifying and working with it. I got some blank CDs that I can work with as throwing discs. I had something else. Oh, I'll also be making use of this right here in it. This was a... Care to explain what this is?
The worst controller ever designed by man. I don't know if my little Sharpie message on there rubbed off, but on the little silver bar on the grip.
Oh. El Chizo was here. Yes. I see it.
Yes, so it's going to be kind of a dojo tradition. What we're going to do is, as we get members, we are going to send this little thing around between members of the dojo, and it'll be their job to take an extended period of time playing with that controller. Then they can sign it or put a sticker on it and send it off to the next member.
I'm going to try to incorporate this into the story also, being just a crappy defect controller that I have to work with until I can manage to upgrade it. And once I've, into the story, upgraded it, this will be sent off to the next successor.
And yes, I am also working on something similar.
He's the one that started this whole thing.
Yeah,
I've in on it.
I'm doing something called Reviewger. I'm working on a few issues we're having with it right now that I don't really want to get too in depth with until I'm absolutely certain that they're going to be issues.
Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to get this plot. I actually have a friend of mine who is a very exceptional story writer. I haven't asked him to do the story for my thing yet, because him and I are co-working with doing an adaptation of Godzilla into a manga, and he's doing the writing while I'm doing the illustrating. But after we're done with that, I'm going to ask him if he wants to be the writer for my series, and then have him be credited and such, and hopefully get him some sort of social media, YouTube channel, whatnot, so he can get the credit he deserves and the praise he deserves if it becomes successful.
And hopefully a cut of whatever comes out of it.
Exactly. If whether it be money, praise, whatever, he deserves it. Because right now, what he's doing with my adaptation of Godzilla, he's doing phenomenal. Because I don't have good writing skills, I have good artist skills, and I'm very thankful for him for that.
That is awesome. And like I said, I am doing something kind of similar, whereas Kenny has his little belt that I threw together. I also slapped this together in an afternoon, and this is going to be my transformation device.
That's awesome. I remember that. It's the Bionicle Morpher.
Yeah, well, it's actually made of a couple different things. Some Legos. I actually need to do some craft foam work to clean it up.
How'd you stick it together, though?
About 2.5 sticks of high temp hot glue.
I dig it. You took my advice. Nice.
What I'm gonna do is put some craft foam over it too, sculpt it so that it looks a little cleaner.
I'll use some Legos with this also.
Gonna put a sticker right there just to paint it red, put a sticker on it, make it look all nice and shiny. It was actually inspired by the original Power Rangers Morphers.
Indeed. Where'd my hat go? Aha, there you are. My Brian Johnson hat.
Oh yeah. So long story short, I sent Kenny a bunch of stuff from here in Vermont.
And to go with the Brian Johnson hat, the Razor's Edge.
Fucking A.
He found out my favorite song by AC/DC was Thunderstruck, so he knew immediately what album to get me. It's my birthday.
Now, did you find the patch that was in there?
Yes, I did. I have it over here somewhere. I put it over here. You want me to show that also?
Go right ahead, dude. Show off your haul.
All right, let me grab it. I think it fell into my bag over here. Aha, there you are. Henry Hawk.
Yep, Henry the Chicken Hawk.
Yep.
My name's Henry, and I'm a chicken hawk.
I want to eat Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah, he was a classic Foghorn Leghorn character.
Then...
Oh yeah, that's the component for the belt. That is a little plasma plate that was actually meant for going to raves, but I don't think either Kenny or I partied that hard.
I used that at a NecoCon for a rave. It'll be on my belt. And
nice.
Utility belt.
And there should be like a little metal belt clip on there.
Indeed, there is.
Now you can actually use that to glue whatever onto the. You can glue whatever you want onto that, and add it as like a holster or a decoration for the belt. You could put a fake badge on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to install something on the center here that this can clip onto, so that way it's centered instead of hanging up like this.
I could see what you might be able to do is, because that's a duty belt, you could actually get a utility belt to go over it.
Okay. Well, I know there's an AutoZone literally about a mile from my house, so
go for it, dude. Let's see what else is there.
Oh, for those who didn't know, this is an early part of my birthday gift, wasn't it?
Ah, yes, that was the first component. That is the Squire SA-150, I believe.
Yeah. And I need to send you some things for your birthday again. You might as well tell me after the stream so I can write that down when I'm going to mail you.
I appreciate it, dude.
Definitely.
We are all, and as I understand, you are working on another one bites the dust.
In fact, I am. Hold on, I think I still remember it.
Remember, it's a creative thing. You got to practice every day.
3, 4, 5. Oh, I just got home, and I didn't bring my guitar with me. So.
Yep, fair enough.
3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. 7, 5. Okay, so yeah.
Try 3 and 5.
Oh no, okay, yeah. Was it 3? Oh yeah, it might have been 3. Oh yeah,
it was
open.
I think it was
3 0 5 5 3 0 0 0 0 3 0 5.
If it helps, because that song was originally played on bass, you can do what's called the push-through technique. Instead of pulling on your strings, you can just kind of push through to the body.
All right. Let's see this.
What I like to do is I put my thumb right here on the middle of the curve. If I can just show you that real quick. I rest my thumb here.
There. Yeah.
So what I like to do when I do the push through technique is I put my thumb right here in the curve of the guitar, and I just
That's smart.
it's actually a bass guitar technique.
Like this?
Yeah, like I just rest my thumb right there and then lean down, and I just picture pushing through the string to tap the body.
What?
If it helps, curl your ring and pinky finger in.
I'll have to get used to that.
And that's just like I said, that's a bass guitar technique. It's not really meant for a 6-string, but because Another One Bites the Dust can be played on 1 string, it works.
Yeah.
Now there are other ways of playing, like I said, I also do a little bit. The whole
song you played on one string, or just that bit?
That riff is played on 1 string.
Okay.
So, for example, if I wanted to play something like the blues, I would. I'm gonna get hit. I hope that's the right size. And that's just with
that's
a very
Blue Monday, right?
Well, actually, Blue Monday is more like. See, that's the thing about a blues shuffle, is that it's always kind of played the same way. You play one. You can lead in however you want, as long as it's in a minor pentatonic, which we will get into a later date. And then you just kind of only finger the A string while finger 1 string while using the lower string as a drone.
Yeah.
So I'm fingering the A string here, and I'm using the E string, this big low string here, as a drone. So it's.
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
Does this look better? Or like this? Like this? Or like this?
Show me your neck. Show me what you're doing there, because I can't quite see.
I have a light on right now, and now it's off. Is that
Keep the light on.
All right, cool.
So the cool thing about a blues shuffle is, like I said, it starts just on the E string and the A string, and it does use a little palm muting to make it short. But then it goes 2 1, 2 1 3. So what I mean by that is like this. So it's. So if we do it once, it'd be like. That's 1. So if we do it twice. Then we go up 1 string. Then back down.
We still have
Pardon?
Do we still have any viewers or any questions?
I think it's just us. So why don't we call it for tonight?
Yeah.
And we will get back to everyone next weekend. I promise next weekend, why don't we do a little bit of something concerning the Bohemian Rhapsody movie?
Yes.
And we'll do a Queen thing next weekend.
Yeah, let's just do Queen in general.
Alrighty. So thank you all so much for watching, and as always, we will see you later, Weekend Warriors.
Stay more phenomenal, everybody.